Hi, I'm Tony Williams, and this is Brooklyn Savvy. Hi, I'm Tony Williams, and welcome to Brooklyn Savvy. We are here with Yesi Morillo, and you are the founder of Proud to be a Latina.
Yes.
I wanted to say it like that because there's a little spiciness with it. And I hope that's not a stereotype. But
Absolutely not. We'll talk about that, but absolutely not.
Certainly. So let me just introduce our Savvy panel, and then we're going to dig right in. We have Denise Arbisu, Phyllis White-Thorne, and Desiree Kinney. So talk to us about your organization, Proud to be a Latina.
So my mission with Proud to be Latina is to ignite boundless leadership.
I like that ignite word.
And what I mean by that is ignite leadership that is agile, that is strategic, that can pivot, that can embrace and implement change, that can come in and basically break down the most dreaded words in business. This is how it's always been done.
Interesting. I
Yes.
love that.
And when I talk about boundless leadership, I'm talking about igniting the pipeline as well. Because when corporations have individuals who can do that, who can embrace change, be agile, be strategic, be pivotal, they can create what their customers need. And they can create companies that are being innovative.
Right.
And that's what we need to move ourselves
But
forward.
your organization is targeting Latinas. So is
Yes.
that so that's who you're basically the leadership that you're grooming at this point.
That's the
what
leadership
you're
that we're
directed to.
grooming.
Right.
But in reality, 35% of our population is not Latina.
Right.
We also get white women, we get Asian women, we get black women. Even though I'm Latina, I consider myself black because
right.
I have root. I have deep roots
Right,
there.
right.
So, but for the most part, we have deep roots that are so important to us, but yet we can still be those boundless leaders.
Absolutely. So let's
Yeah.
talk about what's different. You know, and when it comes to, or what the differences are between, say, we have women of color, we have Latinas, we have black women, we have Asian women. What would be some of those differences that you see?
So one of the things that I see based on the experiences that I've had through Proud to be Latina is that we are loyal to a fault. Which means that if I have a boss who gave me an opportunity and I can work with that boss for 5, 6, 7 years, that opportunity no longer serves me. But I still feel compelled to stay with this boss because she gave me the opportunity, even though I'm no longer growing with her.
But is that because we are ingrained that way? Is
We
it
are
a
ingrained.
cultural?
It's a deep cultural, we're
Yes.
ingrained.
It's a value, you're saying. It's one of our cultural values.
I don't know so much that we value it because it makes us miserable.
Right, right.
But I think that we're just so accustomed to respecting,
That's
Yes.
the value I'm
you know,
speaking
the
of, right.
person
Yes.
that gave us the opportunity. Oftentimes we work for people that are older than us. So we have this value of respecting our elders. So it's not just with bosses, but we stay in situations and relationships, in environments
We do that.
that we have
That don't serve
outgrown.
us. That don't serve us.
That we
right.
have outgrown for a long time, but our loyalty.
But is that a woman thing? Is this just not part of?
Well, I wonder about that, if just women are socialized that way. But I do believe that it has to do with cultures, because a lot of cultures, not only the Caribbean culture, it's a lot of the cultures, we tend to take the responsibility of being honest and being
Direct,
there,
right.
Being there
Dependable,
for people,
dependable.
Being there for people,
I
as you just
count on
said.
you.
Yes.
Right.
Like
But
we're
they can
known
also
to be the
carry a
person that someone
Yes.
can say,
Tell
I
me
can
about it,
count
yeah.
on you
Right.
to be here for me.
Exactly.
Even if you're not happy.
And you might, or you might not be getting the rewards you deserve because
So,
you're in
so
this
how
spot.
does that translate in the pay scale? If you are holding yourself back, and how do Latinas compare to other women in terms of pay?
and other women of color.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the other thing, too. Like I mentioned, we stay in jobs and situations and relationships in environments where we're not longer growing. And so it's affecting our dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we kind of downplay that, too. Well, it's not so bad. You know, I'm getting paid a little bit of this. I'm getting paid a little bit of that. I can pay my bills. You know, maybe I won't go on vacation this year, but it's not so bad. I'll save for the next year. But we're not building wealth. right? And so the generational wealth that needs to be built for us, for our next generation, for our children, for our sisters, for our nieces and nephews, is not there either. So we're not only holding ourselves back, we're holding back our whole process of generational wealth.
So how do you build that awareness in women? Because in order to, it sounds like women need a breakthrough.
Yes.
You know, so your organization, what is it that you're doing? I know what your mission is, and it's very lofty, and I love the word ignite. So how do you move women past some of these cultural imperatives, like the way that we just are? Yeah.
Well, the first thing I say, one of my grounded questions is, who are you here to be? Right? And what happens after? When I was an executive director in financial services, I was a big-time executive. I had this big title, and wherever I went, people knew me as the person who worked in this financial services organization, and I was an executive director. What happens to Yesi after that comma disappears? Am I still Yesi? Am I still the powerhouse Yesi? And you and I were joking about,
he's a powerhouse.
you still have that financial sass. So first is, who are you here to be? And you have to get crystal clear about that. Very, very crystal clear. And once you know...
I keep going, but these are good. Right.
That's very, very true.
And once you know who you're here to be, what disciplines do you need to adopt to be that person, regardless of what people think of you? I'm always saying, people say, oh my God, you're a beast, you're always in lion mode, you're always doing something, because I know what I want, and I stay focused and disciplined on going after it, right? I think when we have all worked in corporate environments, the big thing that no one talks about, it's not just getting to that level, it's staying at that level.
Sustaining it.
Right.
And sustaining it.
Right.
And knowing when to leave it as well, right? Because it doesn't always have to work for you. We outgrow things.
Absolutely.
Right.
We do outgrow.
We outgrow things.
And recognizing that we are not our jobs, but we bring ourselves to our jobs. So that we in ourselves, we're the value. We're the value. And so I think a lot of times we forget that. We forget that we're the value, and we start thinking about the job as valuing us as being important.
Right.
But then that ties into culture in terms of the work culture as well as your personal culture. I think we tend to mesh the two, and sometimes you get lost in that identity factor. Which one are you? Is it the work identity, or is it yourself, or is it your Latina, roots, or whatever it is that you might feel more compelled to be?
But you
I think
all
that's
you're not a monolith. When you speak
right.
about Hispanic Spanish,
Right.
can you talk to us about that? Because sometimes I think people do view Hispanics as a monolith, but you're not.
well, right. But
Yeah.
there's like over 20 countries, right, that speak Spanish, and yet we were talking about this earlier. We're all different.
So I'm not a big fan of the word Hispanic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
wondering.
Yeah.
Hey, am I being? I don't mean to be politically incorrect, Brooklyn.
No.
Yeah, right.
get
So
it right.
why?
I'm not a big fan of the word Hispanic because I feel like it was a governmental word that
Yes.
was designed to
capture.
to demoralize us in many ways. And it doesn't necessarily capture the Latina-ness.
How did it demoralize? I just was wondering.
I think for me personally, and this is my personal opinion, I think every poor person that was labeled as Hispanic, every person that was labeled as Hispanic was labeled as poor.
Oh, I didn't
Right.
realize.
So we were all just coupled into this label as Hispanic, and I'm not. I always correct people and say I'm not Hispanic, I'm Latina. So I've always had a little bit of a problem with the word.
Right.
But I also think that Latina serves as an umbrella, and it captures everybody.
What about when you speak of Chicana, though? Chicana, Mexican Americans, is it? But that's still considered Latina? Yes,
It's still
right?
considered
Yes,
Latina,
right,
but then
right.
we also have some variations, like Afro-Latinas will call
Yes.
themselves Black Latinas,
And that's
or
right,
Afro-Latinas,
right.
And that's one of the problems
That
that
is a
we
big one.
struggle
Yeah.
with.
Yes,
because
yes.
there's still a lot of divide among Latinas, despite us being under this umbrella. There's still a lot of divide where we feel like we have to compete against each other instead of complement one another.
Right.
There's groups of Latinas, and the reason why I created the group, because there wasn't anything in corporate that someone was bringing to the table that said, you know what, I began my career as an admin and went to executive director. So I'm the role model here that can show all these other women that it's possible, that I don't have to be the only one in the room. Whereas, other groups are like, I'll explain this. The other day I had a meeting with a potential sponsor. And he said to me, I want you to come in here and I want you to show these women that they have power that doesn't necessarily tie into their title. I don't want you to come in here and do a cocktail party and tell them they're powerful. And there's a big distinction between that, because we associate power with our titles, with our jobs. And
That's kind of what you were just mentioning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And, when people used to say to me, oh, you work in this financial services organization as an executive director, you must be a really powerful person. I still think of myself as a really powerful person, despite not working there.
Right.
So it's not the power, the word power, it's not the title, it's what you do and how you use it. So I'm using my power now to ignite others.
Right.
And having to have it, because there's no way you would have made it if you didn't believe it to begin with.
Right.
And I think that's the most important part, that you believe in yourself and that that's an achievable mission.
Absolutely.
And regardless of what it may cost you, and I'm talking about in terms of time, energy, you have that single focus. You're going to go for it.
Exactly.
And nothing is going to get in your way. I always felt that I had no safety net, and that if I didn't succeed, there was no one to pick me up off that floor.
Right.
Nobody to pay my rent, nobody to help me.
You have to be your own ride
So
or
I
die.
had to do it. Yes.
Right.
And I
have to be
think
your own
that
ride or
was
die.
part of it for me. And I tied that into the whole picture. But then again, no one ever thinks I'm Latina. Nobody.
Right,
So
How do you?
it's
And I was about ready to go there with you. How does that feel to you when people? And I remember people saying to me, I was saying, well, Denise, she's Cuban. Oh, Denise is not Cuban.
right.
And I'm like,
I'm actually
okay.
born there.
Yeah, but that's who I was talking to.
And I am literally born there, so I can really say, for me it was difficult, because I lived in so many different countries growing up because of my parents' job, and I learned English when I was 9, 10 in Canada, so I have a Canadian accent, and my family was the only Spanish-speaking family that we knew. And you're totally assimilated. And I went to Catholic school where you weren't allowed to have an accent. You really did not identify so much with your culture. But we ate dinner later. Everybody ate dinner at 5:30, 6. We would eat at 9 o'clock. We would celebrate the Three Kings as opposed to Christmas. We had certain traditions that we kept alive, yet you made it work for you, But I think people still thought her accent, the way she acts, and I guess you are influenced by your environment to some extent, but you can't change what you are. You can't change how you feel. Right. You can't change that you are different.